Yippee-ki-yay, Mother Mary and baby Jesus. My name's Ryan, I'm the movie pastor, and today I am talking about my favorite Christmas movie, Die Hard. I watch Die Hard every year. This year is no exception, and I'm excited to talk to y'all about it. So, I normally interpret movies with a theological lens. Die Hard comes pre-packaged with a theological lens for me in our modern context because everybody's asking the same question every year about Die Hard. Is it a Christmas movie or isn't it? Well, I have an opinion on the issue, and you won't be surprised to hear it. Of course it's a Christmas movie. And although I could show clips and give arguments about the different aspects and what different people say about it, the bottom line, I think my most powerful argument is, what else would it be? Right? Like what other liturgical season would you put it in? What other theological meaning would it have? And I think that the people who insist that Die Hard's not a Christmas movie miss out because they end up saying something like, well, it's just an action movie. I don't believe there's such a thing as just an action movie. Many action movies are Easter movies, right? They feature an action hero, usually with the initials JC, who gives the ultimate sacrifice in order to save the world, but then somehow survives giving that ultimate sacrifice. Does that sound familiar at all? But there's always, always, always theology in every movie. And the theology that's present in Die Hard is explicitly Christmassy. It deals with a couple of regular schmoes, John most obviously, but also Al, both of who have messed up and who feel bad about the fact that they have messed up. They're these flawed characters, but both of whom have hope. And by trudging through the day to day and living in the muck, they aspire to a world where things can be better. And through the plot of the movie Die Hard, both John and Al, our primary and our secondary protagonist, receive that redemption. They see their hopes fulfilled. One of the I think most fun clips comes here. See if you can recognize the theological themes. I'll help you a little bit.
Jesus.
Hi, honey. So that's what this is all about? Fucking robbery?
Put down the gun.
Why'd you have to nuke the whole building, Hans?
Well, when you steal $600, you can't just disappear. When you steal 600 million, they will find you unless they think you're already dead. Put down the gun.
Mine, this is mine.
You got me.
Still the cowboy. Mr. McLean, Americans, all alike. Well, this time John Wayne does not walk off into the sunset with Grace Kelly.
It's Gary Cooper, asshole.
Enough jokes.
You made a pretty good cowboy yourself, Hans.
Oh, yes. What was it you said to me before? Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Happy trails, Hans.
So I think that's pretty clear, right? Like, to the point almost of being blatant. I don't want to spend much more time like being another one of those YouTube videos that just stamps my foot and says, Die Hard is a Christmas movie, Die Hard's a Christmas movie. Frankly, if you're watching this channel, you're a little bit more high level than that. I think we can go deeper. And to me, the deeper question than is Die Hard a Christmas movie or isn't it, is why do we keep asking that question? It turns out to me that the answer yes is a lot less interesting than the question, because we keep on returning to that question. And what is it that brings us back there year after year? Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Is it not? And that answer is rooted deeply in our hermeneutics, how it is that we interpret text. And if we can dig into that, it's not only going to cause us to appreciate Die Hard more, I think it'll cause us to appreciate the Bible more, and indeed any text that has any layer of depth or complexity that we encounter in our lives. Check it out. So, if you go and you get your master's degree and you take classes in hermeneutics and homiletics, you're going to engage in the study of how do we interpret texts. And you're going to read lots of books and talk about lots of perspectives, and you're going to hear about Derrida and Ricoeur and Heidegger. And if you don't, then it may be that one of the only places you'll be exposed to it is at the yearly debate of whether or not Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Because that is a hermeneutical question. That is a question about what a text means, and more than that, how do we determine what a text means? One theory of what a text means is that a text means whatever the author intends it to mean, what the original author intended to communicate to their original audience. So, what happens when we apply that to Die Hard? What did the original author of Die Hard intend for Die Hard to be? Did they intend it to be a Christmas movie or not? And you can see, I think, pretty clearly the problem we run into, which is the question, who's the original author of Die Hard? Well, the original author of Nothing Lasts Forever, the book on which Die Hard is based, would definitely say that this story is not a Christmas story. The story that he wrote, and by the way, I'll have all these people's names down here because I'm not going to think of them all off the top of my head right, and I'll butcher them, so just to be fair to everybody, here it is. So that story was not a Christmas story. In the book, the hero didn't succeed. Gennaro, who in that version was his daughter, the hero was kind of a grizzled old man. His daughter dies. There's no redemption. There's no hope. It's just a kind of horror story. It takes place in Christmas, right? The fact that Die Hard takes place on Christmas Eve doesn't make it Christmas. Nothing Lasts Forever also took place on Christmas Eve, but that author would say no. Well, what about the screenwriter, the person who adapted the book for the screen? Well, I think it's pretty clear that that author would say, yeah, this is a Christmas movie, because that person is the person who wrote in scenes like this one.
Mind if we hear some tunes? Hey, that'll work. So you got any Christmas music? This is Christmas music.
It was December 24th on Hollis Avenue, the dark, when I seen a man chilling with his dog at the park. I approached the
Once again, pretty blatant. This is gonna be a non-traditional Christmas movie. Yes, it is Christmas, but not like you think. What about the person who made the original score? Well, the person who made the original score put in songs like this one.
Links. Rechts und wieder links.
And of course, let's not forget this one. Funny thing about that song as a Christmas song, 1 year later, 1989, at Christmas, to celebrate the fall of the Berlin Wall, this composer adapted the words of Ode to Joy to celebrate freedom in a Christmas setting, and that song came to be more forever associated with Christmas than it was. But wait a second, did I say 1988? Yes, because Die Hard came out in July 1988. So obviously someone at the studio did not think that Die Hard ought to be a Christmas movie. You see, in a movie, there are innumerable hands that touch a film, and each hand affects it in different ways, and those hands don't all agree on what should be the meaning, what's the most important part of the various meanings, and so on. Perhaps the best illustration of that would be this clip.
Now, please listen very carefully. Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. It's a Bruce Willis movie.
You see what Bruce Willis is doing there? He's saying that he's in charge. He's the person who's the author, and he gets to decide what the movie is. So it's not about Christmas, it's about showcasing him. And there's some truth to that. And by the way, there's another important person who leaves their stamp on the interpretation of this text, and that's you and me. So the fact that I come back and I watch this movie every year around Christmas time has an effect on what the movie is and what it means to us and our society. And whether you watch it in summer or in winter is going to affect how Christmassy it feels for you during that particular viewing experience. So what does all that mean? And what's the import of it? What does it have to do with the price of rice in China? Well, a lot, actually. Because if we can understand that in order to answer a simple and common question like, is Die Hard a Christmas movie, that we love to talk about for some reason, that we have to get comfortable with this idea of multiple authors of the same text and multiple interpretations that overlap one another, then we can begin to see why simplistic interpretations of other texts, such as the biblical text, can become so problematic and potentially really hurtful. I mean, if I were to make the statement, I'm just taking a plain reading of Die Hard, right? I'm just taking Die Hard literally to mean what exactly what it says. Who says? What the composer says, what the screenwriter says, what the book author says, what the director says, what Bruce Willis says? The same becomes true with something like the Gospels, right? So in the Gospels, Jesus said words. Jesus was in a crowd, and he gave a particular teaching. That teaching involved words. Then those words were written down by someone. Some witness, perhaps at the scene, perhaps later, wrote down what Jesus said. And what that witness thought, and the reason they wrote it down, they had different ideas going through their mind than the ideas going through Jesus' mind when he said those things. I'm not saying they're contradictory ideas, but just what the witness thought was most important about what Jesus said, their reason for writing it down, was not identical to what Jesus thought was most important when he said it. Well, then that witness, their writing got compiled by someone like Luke. That's not crazy liberal stuff. That's right there in Luke chapter 1. He says, I compiled from various sources. So Luke then puts what that witness said into his narrative and puts it in a particular place that fits his needs for his art and the story he's telling, which is neither identical to what Jesus meant when he spoke, nor what the witness thought when they wrote it. Down the line, that gets added to the Bible. It gets placed in kind of a weird place. If you're talking about the Gospel of Luke, right? Luke and Acts are both written by the same person, but somebody put John in between there because we wanted to get the synoptic Gospels together. So that author changes our experience of the text. If you don't speak Greek, particularly if you don't speak ancient Greek, then you're reading not the words that Luke compiled, but the words that a translator translated from Luke's compilation. And that affects our interpretation. Now, I don't think any of these people are trying to be distortive or trying to hurt the meaning. I don't think the goal should be to like travel back in time and try to reconstruct what it would look like if we had video footage of Jesus. I actually think it's a really beautiful thing that what we have in the text is this amalgamation, that it grows, that the text can change over time. Not change in like final meaning, but change and grow and snowball with the interpretation of the scholars over the ages and the different ways that people have lived out the text and engaged with it. That's true of Die Hard too. That I think it's more beautiful that what we have is a collaboration between multiple people, some who were trying to make the best action movie they could with the best stunts they could, some who were trying to make the most compelling characters like Hans and McClane, and some who were trying to illustrate some ideas about Christmas in a new way, all coming together to make a unique viewing experience. We get the same thing in the Bible. And if we don't do that, if we ignore that, then we start to run into problems where, like, we see the way Matthew uses the prophets, and it's not the same as what the prophets mean in their own context. And we start to ask questions like, which one is right?
I want a debriefing. You got some things to answer for, mister.
Because we start to believe that a text has one meaning, and it doesn't. And so, this holiday season, specifically this Christmas season, I hope that you straighten your Santa hat, give a jolly ho 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 as if you've got a machine gun, and enjoy the story of the incarnation of God on this earth as illustrated by complex texts like the Gospel of Luke and like Die Hard.
This is their idea of Christmas. I gotta be there for New Year's.
Oh, the weather outside is frightful, but the fire is so delightful. And since we've no place to go, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow.